but our office, the Office of Leg Affairs, the Domestic Policy Office, these are things that we have taken very, very seriously. I'm going to try and take a question from the back because I know Alex way back there.
Can you discuss what happened with your FAA nominee and what you plan to do next? I mean, obviously there's been some high-profile incidents and people are concerned about the safety of our commercial aviation system. So, what's next?
So, FAA needs a confirmed administrator. Period. Like that's what they need. That's what the country and Americans deserve. Phil Washington had the right qualifications and experience for this role. A couple of things that you've heard me talk about and you've heard us talk about more broadly. He's led the Denver International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world, managed large safety focused transportation agencies, and served as command sergeant major in the military. This was a veteran of the military. This was a veteran. And there were games that we played on, an onslaught of unfounded Republican attacks on Mr. Washington, on his service, his experience, and which irresponsibly delayed the process. So, including threatening unnecessary procedural hurdles on the Senate floor. That's what was happening. And so, Senate Republicans' month-long relentless campaign to sink the nomination of a qualified, again, military veteran. Our administration believes that his service in uniform is an asset. That should have been an asset. So again, we respect Mr. Washington's decision and are grateful for the time he dedicated to this process and continued commitment to public service. But again, the FAA needs a confirmed administrator here. Christian, go ahead. I know.
Thanks. I wanted to ask about this SBA roundtable coming up. There's been critiques from Republicans that the administration, while you guys are addressing all this fraud that we saw during the pandemic with the small business programs, there isn't enough work being done to modernize the system so that this moves quickly and smoothly going forward. We don't have to do this back-picking process again. Do you have any response to that?
Yeah, I do. Look, America's small business economy is opening again, right? It's growing, and a lot of it is because of the work that this president has done this first 2 years. 10.5 million applications that we have seen for small businesses. That's because of the work that we have done, starting with the American Rescue Plan. And because of how we've handled COVID relief, because of how we've handled making sure that we have an economy that grows from the middle up and the bottom up, middle out, we have seen this increase of people going out there trying to start small businesses. We have seen making sure that people don't get left behind. And this is because of SBA programs and services. And just a couple of things, CBA they have scaled up its able to deliver on these historic outcomes. So the data shows that SBA has done the work because of this president's leadership to make sure that you see these small businesses growing. And a lot of that is from the beginning of the first couple of months that the president walked in, passing the American Rescue Plan. By the way, no Republican voted for. I know, we have to go. I'm going to take one more. Try to go to the back here. Go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Ray. Any chance of the president reaching out to the Tennessee congressional delegation, predominantly Republican, in terms of trying to move legislation forward on the front of gun control, trying to, as you put it, move forward with meaningful gun control?
So don't have anything to preview at this time, but again, this is our administration when it comes to Office of Leg Affairs, when it comes to other White House offices, has taken this very seriously, have had multiple conversations with members of Congress about moving legislation forward to deal with this issue, and that's not going to end, that's just going to continue.
Separately, just one final thing on foreign affairs front. The plans that President Putin announced over the weekend to move tactical nukes into Belarus. What is the administration's reaction to those plans that the President Putin announced?
So we're going to continue to monitor the implications. We have not seen any reason to adjust our own strategic nuclear posture nor any indications that Russia is preparing to use nuclear weapon. And so, we remain committed to the collective defense of the NATO alliance, but we have not seen any reason right now to change or adjust our posture. All right, guys, I know we'll see you on the road tomorrow, and I'll be back on Wednesday. Thanks, everybody.
You're just listening in there, Karina Jean-Pierre, providing an update there on a variety of topics, including that shooting there in Nashville and possible gun legislation. So we'll continue to follow that very closely here on Live Now from Fox. We will get more into that Nashville shooting. I want to continue to put up these tweets from officials, from representatives, from country music stars on the ground there in Nashville, as it's impacting quite a lot of people. But I also want to give you a Live Now look as we go to break of some of the images we're seeing out of Philadelphia. We're expecting to hear an update there on that explosion at a historic chocolate factory. We'll have that coming up in just a little bit, about 15 or so minutes. Also out of Utah, there's the tryout continuing with Gwyneth Paltrow. You can watch that on our second stream, gavel-to-gavel coverage of this ski collision trial there. I'm Andy Mack. Thank you so much for watching us on Live Now from Fox. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break.
A new hour of America Reports, and right now, police working to learn more about the 28-year-old woman who shot and killed 6 people at a Christian school in Nashville. 3 of them children, 3 of them staff members. Police giving an update a short time ago. Listen here.
She entered the school through a side entrance and traversed her way from the first floor to the second floor, firing multiple shots. We now know that there are 3 students who were fatally wounded, as well as 3 adults inside the school. We are working to identify those victims, including the shooter. A total of 7 persons were killed as a result of this morning's incident at the school.
So here is what we know so far. A call went in to Nashville police 10:13 a.m. this morning. That was the first phone call the police received of an active shooter situation. We are now learning that that female shooter, age 28, entered the school through a side door before making her way up to the second floor, where she began firing.
Officers were on the scene within moments of the call coming in. It was a 5-member team. They were clearing the first floor when they heard shots coming from the second floor. They proceeded up the stairs toward the danger into the face of the gunfire. 2 of the members of the 5-member team engaged with the shooter, shot and killed her just before 10:30 this morning. The shooter was armed, according to police, with 2 assault-style rifles and a handgun. Officials reviewing surveillance video from the cameras inside the school.
A gut-wrenching scene this hour. Parents are still there trying to gather their children. They have been given a reunification point at the church next door that is associated with the school. They're waiting for any updates. We're waiting on any further updates about all those parents eventually getting reunited with their children. Jonathan Seri has been following this for us. Jonathan, it just makes your heart hurt when you see those little kids holding hands, being walked to a school bus, loaded on to then being driven to a reunification point with their parents. We know many of them are still waiting for that to happen. What do we know now, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking. This is not the setting that you expect something like this to happen. And the players are not the people that you would ordinarily expect. We have some, they're crunching the numbers according to the FBI, looking at all active shooter incidents between the years of 2000 and 2019. Only 3.7% of all active shooters were female. Also, it is incredibly rare shooting like this to take place at a private school. According to the Cato Institute, only 6% of school shootings occur in private schools, 94% occur in public schools. That according to the Cato Institute. So just heartbreaking. Also, we're getting some more details from the Metro Nashville Police Department, releasing some more details about what they now believe is a 28-year-old woman who was responsible for the shooting. Originally, officers responding believed that she appeared to be a teenager, but now apparently a little bit older, 28 years old, a Nashville resident. There were multiple officers who went into that building responding to the gunfire, but the police department says that 2 officers in particular who entered the building, going to the sounds of the gunfire, actually engaged the shooter on the 2nd floor, and those 2 officers fatally shot her. So we're gradually getting more information. We expect a conference.
Three adult victims, and we have 3 children who have been identified and their families have been contacted. Right now, I will refrain from saying the ages, other than to say I was literally moved to tears to see this and the kids as they were being ushered out of the building. I want to say thanks to all of our partners, to the FBI, to the ATF, and other federal partners, to the THP, Tennessee Highway Patrol, the TBI, the District Attorney, and to the Fire Department, who all came together and seamlessly addressed this situation as quickly as possible. I've already gotten a request from the national media about a great response. We're still assessing that as well. But what I can say, and what I've said before, is that whenever I hope that we would never have this situation, that if we ever did, we would not wait. We would immediately go in and we would immediately engage the person perpetrating this horrible crime. And so that's all I can say. Right now we have David Rouse, director of the TBI, who will come out to me to address his portion, and then we have others that will say something as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Again, I want to echo what Chief has said in reference to the great support and the great teamwork that has been taking place here, as well as sending our heartfelt prayers to the families, to this community of these victims. Now, I know there'll be people who want to criticize us for prayers, but that's the way we do that in the South, right? We believe in prayer and we believe in the power of prayer. And so our prayers go out to these families. The role of the TBI in this investigation is we have been asked by General Funk to assist in the officer involved portion of this incident. So the incident where the officers engaged the suspect, we are assisting the Metro investigation. And the reason we've got Metro doing the primary investigation is because it was a fluid scene. So there wasn't a single stop in the action. So as they investigate the homicides, then we felt it was most appropriate for them to continue that investigation. But we will assist as in our role as an independent oversight on the officer involved situation. And so that will be the role of TBI. We too want to thank all of our partners. It is special. We've had this conversation, unfortunately, too many times in Tennessee, and that is that you wish you wouldn't have to do these types of scenes. But when you do, you want to have the working relationships that we have in our law enforcement community here in Tennessee. It is amazing. And we've all come together as one and working very tirelessly, and we'll continue to work together to address this situation. It's a horrible, senseless tragedy, and we will be here working with our partners to get through it. And, next, I'd like to introduce the District Attorney General for this area, Glenn Funk.
This is the ultimate crime when school children and caregivers are the victims of senseless gun violence. Can't say anything before we first express our concerns for the victims and their families and the extended number of victims that are traumatized by today's events. I came out on the scene today because our current operating procedure is that when an officer is involved in a shooting, that the TBI comes out, and I knew that this was a unique case, and I want to make sure that everything was handled appropriately. Director Roush was out here almost at the exact same time I got here, and Chief Drake had already been on the scene for a while. The three of us met and talked about how the investigation was going to be handled. We made a joint decision affirming what the two law enforcement leaders, how they wanted to proceed, which was that Metro was going to handle the bulk of this, but the TBI would participate in a capacity to continue with making sure that we have transparency and everything, and to make sure that any backup that MNPD needs in this continued investigation will be provided. Can't not stress enough how seamlessly that worked to have a conversation, a decision to be made quickly and appropriately as far as how the case is going to be handled from here. Hats off to Chief Drake and to Director Roush. I also want to thank Chief Swan and our federal partners as well. While I cannot comment about the ongoing nature of the investigation, really impressed with the work that's being done by law enforcement.
Yes, good afternoon. First, let me just say, as everyone else, what a tragic day here in Nashville. So our hearts and our prayers do go out to all the family members and also the first responders that actually made this call. As always, the fire department and Office of Emergency Management, our job is to support. And we were here at the beginning and we'll be here to the end. We just ask that everyone, again, as it was said earlier about prayer, we ask for that. And the ongoing support that's needed from our standpoint is to give support in any area that's asked for on the scene. So again, we thank you. And from this point forward, we'll just continue on with our mission and try to bring some type of closure and resolution. Thank you.
I anticipate there will be another briefing at or before 4 o'clock. We will entertain 2 or 3 questions at this moment before these gentlemen have to go back to the scene to continue their work.
Chief, you identified, did you identify the shooter in this case yet?
Yes, we have identified the suspect. It's a 28-year-old female white, that's actually a Nashvilleian or lives in the Nashville area. We are having an ongoing investigation as it pertains to her at this time.
Located her place of where she lived. You have officers there.
We have.
Was she wearing body armor?
Was she wearing body armor? I can't say that far into the investigation. I don't remember seeing it, but I can't say for certain if she had body armor on or not.
Did she have any connection to the church?
From my initial findings is that at one point she was a student at that school. but unsure what year, all of that. But that's what I've been told so far.
Did she give any word on social media, or has her social media been examined at this point?
The investigations are still going at this point. Our federal partners, our state partners, we're all looking into that to see exactly. This is still fluid at the time, but we're looking at everything.
Did anybody pull the fire alarm? Do we know?
Don't remember a fire alarm going off. I was told there were kids that evacuated into a wood line, had the presence of mind to do that, and to go to a fire hall. Once we arrived on scene, we had everyone moved to First Baptist Church, Woodmont, and that way we could get parents and children reunited, and then ultimately make the notification on the 3 kids.
Do we know yet if the side door she entered in was locked or not?
There was a door that was entered. All doors were locked to our understanding, and how exactly she got in at this point is still under investigation. There is a vehicle that was nearby that gave us clues as into who she was, and but as stated, that investigation is still ongoing.
Did the school have school shooter protocol?
They did have protocol. To my understanding, we had, unfortunately, 3 kids that were tragically hurt. It could have been far, far worse.
Okay, folks, we'll be back again before.
You're just listening in there to officials providing an update. We're expecting to have another update within the next hour or so. I'm Andy Mack. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And the story is still very much fluid, but what we do know right now is that 3 children, 3 adults have been killed at the Covenant School during this school shooting earlier. We do know a little bit of information about the shooter. I want to put up this tweet from the Nashville Metro Police Department saying 3 students, 3 staff fatally shot by the active shooter, who has now been identified as a 28-year-old Nashville woman. Of course, following this very closely here on Live Now from Fox, we want to bring in now to the picture Professor of Criminal Criminal Justice out of the University of New Haven, Mike Lawler. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. First off, Mike, what are we seeing initially? What's your initial reaction when you see something like this, some tragedy like this happen in Nashville, Tennessee?
Of course, as someone who's spent a lot of time thinking and studying about these incidents, I just want to know as much information as quickly as possible. For example, what possibly could have motivated this woman to do the shooting? Where did she get the guns? What type of guns were used? Was there an armed security officer there at the school? That's the kind of thing we need to understand, because the goal, at least my goal has always been, as a matter of public policy, is what can we possibly do to prevent these kinds of tragedies going forward.
And I think that's a fair statement for a lot of people, that they are sick of seeing something like this. We do know that is a 28-year-old Nashville woman that did this, and certainly kind of rare to see a female be a part of this. What's the take on that, for male versus female in something like this, especially when it's so unusual, so rare for a female to be an active shooter, to be a mass shooter?
Well, it's very unusual. People are in the process now of going back and looking at all the mass shootings over the last 30 or 40 years. And the highest number I've come up with is, out of all of those, and there's been a lot, only 7 have involved female shooters. So it is unusual. But what it tells us is that what people need to look for, the warning signs, the red flags, it doesn't matter who the individual is, young, old, male or female, rich or poor, immigrant or U.S. native-born citizen. It really doesn't matter. What you want to look for are the warning signs. Do you know people? And we all know people who have issues, right? They're seem like they're unable to cope with stress. They're complaining about everything. They're filled with grievance, and they have access to firearms. And in many cases, they own a lot of guns, and they seem like they obsess about guns. If you see those things together, you really need to reach out to the authorities, ideally the local law enforcement agency, and just convey what you're seeing. Let them take it from there. Most states, not Tennessee, many states, not Tennessee, have red flag laws that give very carefully crafted, procedural steps that the police need to take in those situations. But even in the absence of those laws, there's still things that the police may be able to do. So bottom line is, if you see something, say something.
And a lot of people, like police, are looking into connections, and the fact that this 28-year-old woman may have attended the Covenant School, that would be a strong connection that police are potentially looking into, correct?
Yeah, it'd be very, I mean, it would help you understand a possible motive here. And chances are, if that's true, if she did attend the school, there's probably a litany of contacts that she has had either with the school or with others complaining about something. Maybe she has her children at the school. We just don't know. And so those are all the things that we would consider red flags, the kinds of things that are warning signs. And what we do know, according to the police at least, she went there with one handgun and two assault rifles. And so that's an unusual arsenal for people to have. I mean, there are plenty of people who have that many guns, if not more. But still, when you see that, and then you sense there's some real grievance, there's anger, there's frustration, desperation in some cases, that's when you know you need to do something before it's too late.
Definitely. And a lot of questions during the White House press briefing to Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre were around that subject, about potential red flag laws and different things like that. One question, though, did strike me from the members of the press was, is gun reform even possible? Is that something that can prevent something like this? Because we've seen it time and time again. Obviously, potentially more laws in place would impact that. But do you feel that gun reform could be possible to prevent something like this?
Well, if every state in the country adopted laws like we have here in Connecticut, where I am, or New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, we have very elaborate laws governing who can have guns and what they can do with them, what types of guns they can own. What we do know is there's far fewer people on a per capita basis being killed with firearms in our states compared to some other states, including Tennessee, right? It's also important to keep in mind that most people who are killed with firearms are suicides. And many of those suicides are murder suicides. Many of those are domestic violence related situations. Many of the mass shootings have been murder suicides. Here in Connecticut at Sandy Hook, young man had a gun that was technically legal at the time in Connecticut because the gun manufacturer, Remington, was able to modify one of their AR-15 products so it wasn't exactly under the Connecticut assault weapon ban, and that's the gun that was used at Sandy Hook. And so we know that if every state had laws like this, there would be fewer of these. It wouldn't prevent all of them. It would just mean there'd be fewer. And keep in mind, according to the New York Times today, at least, there's over 20 million assault weapons in circulation in the United States, owned by ordinary citizens, not law enforcement. And even if laws were passed tomorrow, even if Connecticut's laws were just photocopied and enacted in every state, it's going to take a long time for those to filter out of the system. So the immediate steps that can be taken are reaching out to the police when you see the warning signs. The long-term solution has to be more reasonable gun laws, similar to what exists in pretty much every other advanced country. And in all of those countries, this kind of thing is not impossible, but it is very rare.
Yeah, and a quick fix is not something that is necessarily possible, but over the long-term scale, you possibly think it could happen. I do have to ask you, because obviously you are in Connecticut and Sandy Hook potentially comes to mind just based on the age of potential victims in this case. How much does that kind of weigh on people? Because obviously seeing school children, you saw police there said they were brought to tears in this Covenant school in Nashville, just seeing some of these potential victims. How much does that weigh on people, just the age of victims that are of the senseless gun violence?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Sandy Hook was this times 4 or 5 in terms of its scale. At the time I worked for former Governor Malloy. I was his criminal justice advisor, and I just remember all of the emotions in real time as that incident played out. And in the immediate aftermath, the one time I saw Governor Malloy come to tears basically was discussing how he had to break the news to the parents. And I think in the days to come, we're going to see the images of these children, as well as the school teachers that were involved here. We're going to hear from their families. We're going to watch the community mourn in Nashville. We're going to see political leaders arrive there. I'm sure President Biden will go. So we'll really go through a collective grieving process with the people of Nashville over this incident. And the fact that these are innocent young children, you know, it was a pre-K through 6th grade school. And not to mention the children who survived the shooting. Just imagine how traumatized they're going to be for the remainder of their lives, and their families, their parents, by extension. You know, here in Connecticut, from time to time, we do run into students who were in those schools in Newtown, Connecticut. We're now in college. We have a few of them at our university, and you can tell they still bear the scars of that dreadful day 10 years ago. I mean, it's indelible. And, you know, people said after Sandy Hook, if this doesn't cause the Congress to enact some reasonable gun laws, then what could possibly do it? And I think, unfortunately, the answer to that question is there's probably going to be a series of tragedies like this, not just in schools, but in places of worship, in hospitals, and in country western concerts, like what happened in Las Vegas, at Asian dance halls, and in California. You know, we see these far too frequently. But the one thing is for sure, if there was not another tragedy like this starting today, then people would stop talking about gun control. But the more of these that take place, I think the more momentum will develop behind these rules. And you know, the congressman there who represents Nashville, who represents the district where the school is located. I mean, his Christmas card last year was him and his family, including some young kids, standing there holding AR-15s in front of the Christmas tree. I mean, the gun culture in this country is hard to explain to people in other nations. Last year in the spring semester, I was teaching. We have a campus in Italy. I was teaching there, and we were talking to the police in the city of 300,000 people. So, you know, how often do you have a murder? And they said, well, we have 1 or 2 a year. And say, like, and how often is there gun violence? You know, a murder resulting from a firearm. And the chief looked at the assistant chief, and they said, I don't know, it must have been at least like 10 or 11 years. And our students asked them, well, how often do you have to pull your gun out in the line of duty? And both of them said, well, we've been on the force for decades. We've never had to do that. So, I mean, it's just a different culture when you have no, there's guns, there's very few guns in circulation. And, you know, people have a right to have them for sure. I actually think it's a bad idea. It's a very dangerous idea to have them in your house, but it's your right. And sometimes people, you know, need to be convinced, whether it's legal or illegal. It's just a really bad idea. It's very dangerous to have guns within easy access.
Yeah, it is sad and disturbing when you list off some of those shootings that just come to mind. And obviously, we can't think of all of them because they are very frequent around here. Mike Lawler, thank you so much for joining us. Are there any parting words, any parting thoughts you want to leave with our audience, certainly after this tragedy in Nashville?
Well, just one thing in particular, and I'll repeat it. If you see something, say something. We all know people like this. We all are aware of people who seem like they're at wit's end, and they have some guns. And when you see that, take action today. Call the police, report what you're seeing, let them figure out what to do about it. If you just assume like you don't want to get involved or nothing is really going to happen, you know, you may wake up someday, hear about a tragedy like this on the news, and it'll involve the very person you were concerned about. So
that is good advice there for say something, say something. We appreciate your time. Certainly not the best circumstances, but we appreciate your perspective and context to this tragedy in Nashville.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again as we continue on here on Live Now from Fox. Another look outside of the Covenant School, 3 children, 3 adults dead, including also the 28-year-old female shooter there. I'm Andy Mack here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break.
This is really sad, really crazy. I'm tired of seeing schools getting shot up by the devil workers, the devil minions. This don't make no sense. That these people need medication, they need help, they need prayer, they need seeking, they need deep soul seeking. This doesn't make any sense. And now they're trying to blame it on just guns. Guns don't kill people. Dumb motherfuckers with guns kill people. And of course, over in Europe, they don't have any guns over there on these streets. The police don't even carry guns. This is shock. This is breaking news. People have been shot in Nashville school. 3 adults, 3 children by a 28-year-old female and her companion. What was on their brain? What was they thinking? This happened earlier today. And this is live news that's coming to you through Fox, through me at the 103 Krazy Dropoff Radiopod.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox, certainly covering all the top headlines of the day, including out of New York City. There is no vote in the Trump probe. This, according to reports there, as the jury is left for the day after hearing from one witness, David Pecker, who 2 sources have told me the grand jury now scheduled to sit again on Wednesday. So we wait and we wait some more on this potential indictment, potential arrest of former President Donald Trump in this hush money probe with that model and porn star Stormy Daniels. Of course, we're following it very closely here on Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. We also want to get you out to a major story out of Philadelphia, and we want to give an update as officials are now on the ground providing more information into that explosion at a historic chocolate factory in Philadelphia. Of course, this was video from several days ago. It was an explosion inside a Pennsylvania chocolate factory, left 7 people dead and a community shaken. The blast took place around 5 p.m. on Friday at the R.M. Palmer Company on South 2nd Avenue in West Reading. Authorities say the explosion leveled one of the facility's buildings and caused structural damage to another. We want to take you out to officials on the ground as they are providing an update onto what happened during this explosion. Let's listen in to officials on Live Now from Fox.
Public Information Officer for Troop L Reading. Thank you for all coming. We're going to give you an update on some things regarding the investigation of the March 24th, 2023 fire at RM Palmer Company. Behind me are Chief Wayne Hoban, West Reading Police Department. Sergeant, he's not here. The Fire Chief, the West Reading Fire Department, Chad Moyer. Western Burke CMS, Anthony Tucci. The West Reading Fire Marshal, Troy Hatt. The West Reading Mayor, Samantha Kegg. West Reading Council President, Ryan Lineweaver. Dr. Barbera, the CEO and President of the Reading Hospital. I will tell you that the state police is doing the cause and origin of the fire, and that is a large-scale investigation involving multiple agencies that are helping. The length of time is unknown, and we will release information as soon as we are able to. That's our statement regarding the fire, or the cause and origin of the fire. Now I would like to introduce the West Reading Borough Police Chief, Wayne Hoban, who's going to read a statement regarding the fire at RM Palmer Company.
Thank you. Chief, can you spell your name? Thank you. Yes, my name is Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E, Hoban, H-O-L, B as in Bravo, E-N. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to honor the memory of the victims of this tragic event with a moment of silence. Thank you. On Friday, March 24th, a devastating explosion shook the West Reading community. Since then, rescue workers have worked tirelessly to search for survivors and ensure the safety of the surrounding area. 7 individuals died, several were injured, and some community members were left homeless due to the explosion. The search and rescue efforts following the building explosion at the RM Palmer building have officially concluded. Now that all unaccounted for individuals have been recovered, the focus shifts on the daunting task of cleaning up the aftermath. The cleanup process has begun, which is expected to be difficult and a difficult and lengthy process. It will involve the removal of debris, clearing the area, and making sure that buildings are safe to occupy. The cause and origin of the explosion is still under investigation by the Pennsylvania State Police Troop L Fire Marshal. Now that we are closely working with emergency response teams, environmental experts, and construction professionals to ensure that the cleanup is done safely, efficiently, and with minimal impact on the surrounding community. We urge the public to be patient during this time, as the area will continue to be closed off until cleanup is complete. We also ask that you continue to keep the families affected by this tragedy in your thoughts and prayers, and hope that the first responders' diligent efforts these past few days have helped bring closure to all those affected by this tragedy. We are committed to keeping the community informed as we work towards rebuilding and restoring the area. We appreciate your cooperation, support during this difficult time. Thank you. I'll now have the mayor come up and give her statement.
Thank you. Hi, Samantha Kaag. As Chief Holben said, we were able to account for the bodies. This is still a devastating loss, as I said last night. It was and still is the wishes of West Reading Borough officials that the families have time and space to grieve and share the information with their loved ones on a personal level, and not to have them find out things via the news and or social media. However, the Berks County Coroner's Office is starting to release the names of the positively confirmed identified individuals, following their guidelines and protocols for appropriate release. Our thoughts are with those affected by this process and news. Judy Schwank, Jahani Sapita, Chrissy Houlihan, and Josh Shapiro, and many other elected officials have been staples in making sure resources are available to families, employees, and anyone affected by this tragedy. And we were working together with them very personally to make sure the resources are there and coming. As we move into the investigation phase and releasing this further into very capable hands, my focus will be on the families and those affected to get them the resources and information they need, along with community support. We as a borough will continue to work hard for our community throughout the next coming months. I'm going to hand this over to Council President Ryan Lineweaver to make his statement.
Yeah, it's Ryan Lineweaver. It's Lineweawer, V as in Victor, ER. So this afternoon we had the opportunity to speak with representatives from Representative Houlihan's office, from Senator Bob Casey's office, and take them down to the site, and more importantly, speak to the number of federal resources that are available to those affected. So they're ready and available to help anyone affected by this tragedy, including federal assistance, whether it be from the Small Business Association, from HUD, regarding food assistance, the Postal Service, survivor benefits. They are ready and standing by in case anyone is in need at the federal level. Also wanted to speak to the West Reading Recovery Fund that was set up in tandem by the United Way of Berks County and the Berks County Community Foundation. I had spoken with representatives from there, and as of about 1 o'clock today, there was roughly $107,000 already raised, which is incredible. We honestly can't thank people enough for their contributions, and those who are willing to continue to contribute in any way. Right now, they're currently looking at how best to disperse those funds efficiently and effectively by their guidelines that they have set. Also within our community, was able to speak with a representative from the American Diner, which is right on Penn Avenue in West Reading. Yesterday, they brought in families, friends of those affected by those at Palmer, and 100% of their proceeds from yesterday were raised towards first responders. So they were able to raise $3,600 in funds that will be dispersed between multiple agencies, including the West Reading Police Department and West Reading Fire Department. We heard stories yesterday. We went on top of the hill to speak with a lot of Palmer employees who were up there, and they were there during the day. And they literally said that there were people stopping them in the street to hand them $100 and say, please make sure this goes where it needs to. And that goes to how incredible this community is. It really is. And hopefully, as we continue out of this and through this process, that will continue to shine through for everyone who's willing to look. So once again, thank you to all those who've contributed, who will continue to contribute to first responders, to those in need, and those affected. At this time, I will turn it over to West Reading Fire Marshal Troy Hatt.
First name is Troy, T-R-O-Y. Last name is Hatt, H-A-T-T. 5 South 2nd Street, 77. No, wait, let me start over. 5 South 2nd Avenue, 77 South 2nd Avenue, and 200 Penn Avenue have been condemned. They have been condemned due to safety reasons and the buildings being unsafe. What that means is they are not condemned to be demolished. What that means is they are unsafe to occupy. We need a lot more information from those buildings, meaning engineers need to come out. The businesses that are operating out of some of those buildings that were condemned are operating and will continue to operate out of other locations. So we're going to have to gather more information, but as of now, they're going to remain condemned due to unsafe reasons. Also, that block in front of there, which is from 2nd Avenue, will be continue to be closed from Franklin Street to Penn Avenue, and Cherry Street will be closed from 2nd Avenue to the railroad bridge. Again, that is for safety reasons until we gather more information from the engineers for them buildings. But again, those businesses that are in that area continue to operate, just operating at other locations. Thank you.
At this point, we're going to bring up CEO and President of Reading Hospital, Dr. Barbera. He has been an amazing staple in this community and has been such a community partnership. Thank you so much for everything you've done at Reading.
Thank you. Charles Barbera, C-H-A-R-L-E-S-B-A-R-B-E-R-A. I am Dr. Charles Barbera, an emergency physician, and I am the President and Chief Executive Officer at Reading Hospital. Reading Hospital is 3 blocks away from the Palmer Candy Factory, and our team has been intimately involved with the responding to the incident of Friday evening. Immediately after the explosion, Reading Hospital activated our external emergency preparedness plan, in which we set up incident command under the leadership of our Chief Operating Officer, Michelle Trupp, and we prepared to accept patients. Reading Hospital was ultimately the site of all the patients injured in this event. 10 patients were treated at Reading Hospital in our emergency department and our trauma unit. 2 of those patients were admitted to the hospital. 1 of those patients was transferred to a burn unit, and the remainder were discharged to home with family. I am happy to announce that 1 of the patients that was admitted to the hospital was just discharged an hour ago in good condition to care of their family. Yesterday, at the request of Mayor Kaag, Reading Hospital hosted a meeting for the families of the victims and for those loved ones who were unaccounted for at that time. We provided an interpreter, pastoral support for the families as they heard from the authorities and asked questions. Our hospital family is devastated by these events, but we consider it our mission and our privilege to stand tall as a pillar of this community. In times of crisis and every day, our people take on this responsibility without wavering. our entire team at Reading Hospital is fully dedicated to caring for those injured in the explosion and to working with the authorities to bring healing and closure to everyone impacted by this tragic event. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up now to any questions you may have.
Dr.
When you
Barbera,
talk about it being
Yes.
among those who was the woman who was found later in the rubble and survived, was she among those who was released from the hospital, or is she still there?
I can't, without names, I can't really release any of the dispositions of the patients. I apologize.
When you talk about buildings being condemned, we've heard from a lot of employees that there are belongings in that one building. And forgive me, I'm not familiar when you say addresses what building that is. We've been told that the main factory there is building 1. Will those people be able to go in and get belongings at some point? I mean, many say that their phones are in there, they can't keep in touch with coworkers.
And we understand that. And today we were trying to get to that point to allow them in. But again, due to the unsafe, unstable status of that building, we cannot let anybody in there to get that stuff. I can tell you that there has been insurance representatives out there today. This is their first real look at what is there and what they're going to need. We are hoping within a day or so for the engineers to be out. When the engineers deem it safe, yes, they will be able to get their stuff out with assistance with responders and or people to ensure their safety.
And UGI says that in its checks after the explosion, it found several small leaks in the area around the explosion area, not so much that area. Will there be a way to determine now the gas is off and whatnot if it was gas in that?
Well, that's going to be all part of what our fire marshal unit does to figure out what actually caused this to happen. So that's why we're still, it's a big scene. So it takes a while to figure stuff out sometimes. So yes, that would be all part of what we do to try to figure out what happened.
I may expand on that. So with respect to the investigations of the cause and the origin, can you say whether or not this is isolated, or should the residents of West Reading be concerned that maybe their home could go up at any moment?
No, it's isolated to that location.
Can you walk us through a little bit about exactly what you're doing right now in the investigation? I know you don't have a timeline for how long this can take, but what are you guys in there doing? What are the next steps as we look through and try to piece this all together to figure out what happened?
I mean, I wouldn't tell you what our steps are to do that, but, you know, we talk to people. There could be other people to talk to. There could be a video within the building that, you know, if there's some type of closed circuit, or I don't know if I'm using the right word, like a video that we may want to look at and somehow capture that. And that doesn't always happen immediately. It may be required a search warrant. So we want to get everything that I mean, if there's video of what's going on in there just prior to this event, yeah, we want to have that. But that doesn't always happen within, you know, a day or two. That could be a week till we send it out, even if that's where we're going. So that's just one thing that could prolong that. Or we want to talk to somebody. Maybe we want to talk to somebody that's injured. You know, there's so many variables that go into it. We want to talk to somebody, you can't connect with them. It's a week, it's a month later. So until we have all the answers that our fire marshals want to gather, it's going to take however long it takes.
Tell us who exactly is on this team. I know OSHA's also has their own investigation. So who's specifically on this investigative team right now?
As far as cause and origin of the fire from the state police, there's 2 fire marshals that are doing this incident.
Trooper, how cooperative has RM been with this investigation? And to the point that was sort of just raised here, there's a lot of variables. What have they been able to tell the state police at this point about what they know was happening in the building before the explosion?
Well, I would never discuss what we turn up in the investigation at this point, especially. Have they been cooperative? I didn't ask them if they were cooperative or not. I'm assuming they are.
But I guess, let me rephrase it. Is there anything they've been able to tell you at this point about what was happening inside the building? I know the utilities have said what they've said. What has the company said?
That I don't know.
And for anyone who may have video surveillance, pictures, anything of the incident, how can they go about contacting emergency personnel?
Well, I will give you my email. You can email it to me and I'll send it to the investigators. We would love to have any video, pictures just after the event, before the fire department gets there. I know there's a really good video out there. I don't know if I can say where it came from, but there's a really good video out there that I just got more longer of the video today at the request of one of the investigators. So yeah, if there's anybody, if you have a picture or video, maybe from a different angle or whatever it may be, don't ever think it's no big deal. Get it to us, and then we'll decide if it's not a big deal.
Is there any reason to suspect negligence or foul play, or are we strictly thinking utility at this point?
I would tell you everything's on the table at this point, right? Because we're still not done with the investigation, right? We may go down that road and think, okay, we got it, and then something else comes up. So to say it's one way or another, I would not say that at this point right now.
The building with the most damage, what was that building? What was in that building? Can you give us a sense of how big it was, how wide it was? What, was it an office building? I don't know the proper term.
It was part of RM Palmer's manufacturing storage facility for their chocolate. There were some employees, some office buildings up top, but that's what it was primarily used for.
Was it a loading dock as well?
There was a loading dock associated with the rear of the property, yes.
Is there a manifest that told you guys how many people were working in the building at that given time for this massive explosion and for the number of people that were reported injured and deceased, it seems that it's kind of a miracle that more people weren't killed in this.
Yeah, the police, working in close conjunction with RM Palmer staff, were able to come up with a list of people who they were not able to account for.
That is correct.
How many were in the building? How many were in that portion of the building then?
I don't have an exact number of how many were in the building.
But just in that portion of the building, do people make it was it a small crew and this is what happened to them?
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
Is there a number for the amount of people who were not in the building, were not working there, but lived near it and were displaced by the explosion? We won't be able to go back to their apartment.
There are about 4 units.
About 4 units?
Yes.
Comprising about how many people, sir?
I don't have that exact number.
That's included in the 3 buildings condemned? Or is it beyond that?
That's included.
So those 3 buildings, that includes 3 units for people?
Correct.
So in your list of the 7, do you have the number of Hispanic?
I do not have that number.
Or nationalities?
I don't have that number.
Back to the concern for residents, UGI says the leaks that it found in the surrounding area, no one called those in. No one smelled gas. There were no reports of it. There were no reports of gas odor at the explosion site. So if we're relying on people to smell it, or if they dig up, is what they did today. They dug up holes and found these leaks on their own doing this safety inspection. Why shouldn't residents be concerned if they went and found these leaks that nobody knew were there because something exploded?
UGI was on location that evening, so I'm sure they did what they had to do to make sure this area was
They were
safe.
finding these leaks and repairing them today, 4 days later. That's what they told us.
So when UGI was on scene, we had to shut the gas off. So there were some gas leaks that were repaired after the fact. Obviously, having gas off for a little bit, turning it back on, you do kind of smell like different things. We can't really comment on anything further than that because obviously it is under investigation. We don't have those answers, and us as a borough, we're not able to really answer them. That's why we're putting it in the capable hands of the next agencies kind of coming in as we turn it over to that investigation portion.
I understand that, but if I'm a resident in that area or any area, I'm now concerned because there were these leaks that nobody knew about, and they only found them after 7 people died. That's why I'm saying, how do you assuage fears of people?
The leaks that they may have found after may not have been the cause or involved with the incident. It might have been from turning the gas back on, but that's all speculation at this point. I mean, obviously, a lot of this is speculation, but what we're doing is it's obviously Officer Bohm has said that it is a contained incident. We've done our due diligence enough to be able to say that. So all that we ask is obviously continue to utilize the resource available. If you do smell a leak, come to us. But other than that, we have had obviously numerous agencies there and available to say that this is a contained incident and that everybody is safe.
Yes, so a lot of stuff been going on, and is very terrifying, sad about the shooting in Nashville with the 6 people that's been injured or shot, and some got hurt, killed. I'm glad you guys tuned in to the 103 Crazy Dropoff Radiopod. Thank you for tuning in. It's been an hour, and we're going to save some time for some more drop-offs, you know? So with this breaking news, not only from the 6 kids, where the 6 people were shot in Nashville, but the chocolate factory in Philadelphia that blew up on Saturday, and now they had the press conference that you just seen. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with me. Next episode, DMX. We're going to reminisce about DMX, one of the greatest hip-hop artists ever. Test the mic. So y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. Thank you for tuning in to the 103 Crazy Drop Off. I am your host, Crazy Chaos. Peace.